Hi, sorry.
And it begins. Hello. Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Entrance applause. Should we leave? It makes me miss the theater. Well, welcome everyone to the voice actor Q&A. I think our 100th in this series. Hi. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hi. I'm Jessica Calvello. Hello. Thank you for having me. We're just saying our names?
Your favorite color?
My favorite color is blue. What else?
You're a Leo.
I'm a Leo.
What are you most known for?
Most known for the roles. Oh, I'm most known for my night games. I'm just kidding. Are you guys dead? Come back to life. I just went to Mr. Creepypasta's panel and I'm a little freaked out.
Oh God.
You know it's gonna be bad when he's like, okay, does anyone have an issue with spiders or clowns or what is the phobia when you're scared of drowning?
Hydrophobia.
That thing. I was like, well, I'm out. Thank you. Great panel, Mr. Creepypasta. I will see myself out. I'm probably most known for Hanji in Attack on Titan. Yes. And thank you. And Excel in Excel Saga. Oh, that makes me so happy. Thank you. And a lot of Girls and Panzer fans out there. Girls and Panzer that died. Okay, yay, Sayori. And Rip Van Winkle and wow, Jessica, stop yelling. Jesus, Rip Van Winkle and Team 4-Star Helsing Ultimate Abridged. Rip Van Winkle. Thank you for having me.
Hi, everybody. My name is David Wald. You probably know me from such anime as I am Gajeel in Fairy Tail. Thank you. Yes. Let's see the big ones. Hannes, Attack on Titan. Oh yeah, that was a rough day, y'all. Let's see what Bulat in Akame ga Kill. Yes, they call me the Akame ga Killer. They don't. Nobody calls me that. Only Jessica. Herman Luis in Garo the Animation. I know we have a Garo fan there. Reiji in Diabolic Lovers. Master Chief in Halo Legends. My big turn-ons are Walks on the Beach and Men Who Aren't Afraid to Cry. It's good to know. Is this turning you on?
Hello, my name is Blake Shepard. How are you guys? Fine. Eve of the Moon. You may know me from such films as Angel Beats as Otanashi, Akito from Air Gear, Liang from Nambaka, Soma from Food Wars, and Laito from Diabolic Lovers. I said that one, maybe? I can't remember.
Hottest thing in the show, y'all. Blake Shepard. Am I right, Hannah? Come on.
I saw a YouTube video of me doing that show. I was like, I don't remember. I must have blacked out. I don't even remember. I've never sounded like that.
Oh my God. You sound like that more.
I know! I'd be so creepy. David the other day was like, you just needed your own show. I was like, so I needed a rape show? Just like, oh yeah, I'm higher. Oh yes, you look lovely.
I was thinking it was like a Dr. Phil show, you know, like Laito explains the intricacies of sexual relations.
Now that show I could watch. That would be a show I'd be into. Yeah. Very cerebral, sexy.
Right. Or here's Laito's hat collection. I have one.
Welcome to my hat collection. Please have a seat.
I guess it's my turn now?
Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Dawn M. Bennett. Hey everybody. You guys may know me as Anren, Lyren's mother in Ruby, Frosh in Fairy Tale, Isabella Yang, JJ's fiance in Yuri on Ice, Noriko Sanzo from Nanbaka, Esmeralda from Garo the Animation. Oh gosh, I'm blanking now. You guys can look it up, just use your phone, Google. But yes, thank you.
Yay, Donnie!
Well, we're here to field your questions. But first I want to say, this is a pretty live crowd. Like, you guys have a pulse. It's beautiful.
Yes!
I'm crying into my panda cookies. So now, that's a Diet Pepsi of some nature.
I thought it was a Coors Light.
We're here to answer your questions. So who's got one?
Come on!
And it's over.
It's like 1982, all of a sudden he's drinking a Coors Light.
I thought it was a Coors Light! No, from this side, it looks like a Coors Light. Which is basically like very light pee-pee. If you've ever had a Coors Light, you might as well drink your own urine. Not the first urine of the morning, not the acrid one, but like a little bit later, it's like, I know far too much about this, but I thought it was a Coors Light.
There is so much to learn at this panel.
Yes.
You had a question, sir?
Yeah, anyway, I have one for Miss Calvello.
Jessica, call me Jessica.
Yes, Jessica?
Yes.
You took a role from, did a man named Go in a Giant ask you for a role in an animation?
Yes. Go to Guy. Yes. Yes, thank
The
you.
man behind my Zinger Z, after all.
Zinger Z, oh my god. Go to Guy, yes.
You did.
Is that what's your question? I'm sorry.
Did you take a role from one of the animations? Probably got this organal, an android named Cutie Honey? Yes.
Are you saying, am I Cutie Honey? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, you did that? Yes.
Yes, I am the voice of Cutie Honey. And
Awesome.
Fly. Yes.
Yeah.
Cutie Honey would destroy that fly. Yeah, are you a Cutie Honey fan?
Well, I watched the animation and I got something that you may want to take a look at as well.
Cool, I would love to. I'm also a Cutie Honey. Are you guys familiar with Cutie Honey? Any Cutie Honey fans? Yeah?
Yeah.
And he's dubbing after all.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So that I just talked about this in my own panel. That's one of my most honored, cherished things that ever happened to me in the anime world was back in 1998. Go to Guy, the creator of the Cutie Honey franchise. He's contacted Matt Greenfield, ADV Films at the time, had the license to Cutie Honey. Cutie Honey is Japan's, this is how it was explained to me. So if you Google fact check me and I'm wrong, this is what I was told back in 1998. Cutie Honey is Japan's Wonder Woman, version of Wonder Woman. That's what they explained it to me as. Anyway, he's like, great, you've got the title to my most beautiful, cute, the lovely angel, she's called Lovely Angel. I want to cast her, and I want Winona Ryder to play the role. And ADV Films was like, that's great, we can't afford Winona Ryder at all. We can afford Jessica Calvello. I'm like, yes, I'm a too poor. So Matt said, okay, if you want to cast it, that's fine. We can't afford Winona Ryder, but we're happy to audition some of our A-listers for you. And so they auditioned 9 of us. They sent off a CD, because we had CDs also back in the day. FedExed it to Japan, and he chose me, and it was freaking amazing because I mean, to have the creator of a huge franchise like Cutie Honey to personally select me as the voice was the greatest honor ever, and so that's really cool. And it was that was a great memory. Thank you for that. Oh, thanks. Yeah. A lot of people don't know Cutie Honey. She's really, really cool. Yes, take a bow. Thank you. Any other questions for us? We are here for you. Yes.
Question for Dave Wald.
Here you are.
How did you feel playing as Zula in a comic book film?
Well, I would like for you to hang out and stay for the 6 o'clock panel, because that's in this room a mere 2 hours from now. I'm going to talk more about that. It was extremely meaningful to me for a lot of important reasons. But Bulat was, the Cliff Notes version before the 6 o'clock panel is, Bulat was the first gay character I ever encountered, particularly being from the West, where gay characters are really relegated to one of 3 jobs in any Western narrative. You're either a psychopathic killer, or you're the wildly flamboyant comic relief, or you're the martyr, whose job is to suffer because you're gay. Bula did none of these things. He was a teacher, a mentor, a warrior, brunette, right-handed, and also gay. And I had never encountered a character like that in the West. Certainly not in animation, not on Will and Grace, not in The Flash, nowhere. So it meant a lot, because I think that's important. And later I would find out how full anime is of characters like that. And I was really glad to encounter that. Plus the fact, he was awesome. Bula was like, everybody wants that teacher, right? Oh yeah, I love Bula with all my heart. Thank you for asking about it. Oh my God, so hot. And a pompadour shaped like a heart-shaped pompadour. Like, listen, I have all kinds of hair envy, people, but the heart-shaped pompadour, like that, there's no getting it. Like, I'm surprised Lady Gaga hasn't incorporated that look yet. You know what I mean?
Soon.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything? Oh, now it's happening! It's raining questions!
It only took a day and a half.
You in the back, you look very excited to get that hand up.
Y'all voiceover actors, what made you choose that career path, or was this like a fallback plan from your original career choice?
We all wanted to be heart surgeons, and they wouldn't let us.
It's the cocaine. I do so much of it. And apparently you can't be a doctor and be coked up.
That is not true.
I mean, you guys joke, but I'm Asian. It was expected of me to be a surgeon. And I'm just like, no, I like anime.
Shall we go down the line?
I fell into it. I was an actor. Acted my whole life, danced, sang. Went to, high school, junior high. Well, of course I went, but I mean, like, I focused on theater, got a college degree, a Bachelor of Fine Arts in acting. Wanted to do it. Was at a commercial print modeling school. Don't ask. One of the teachers thought I was great, gave my name to ADV Films. They called me on, just started working there. And at the time, the dubbing industry had just started, and they were sort of begging people to be in dubs because there was no one. No one knew what that was. They were getting the artists from next door to come over and do voices. That's how Doug Smith got cast as Golden Boy. He is Golden Boy. He was an artist, and they're like, we don't have anyone to be Golden Boy. He was like, okay, I'll do it. And he was so goofy. It worked. But I fell into it, so.
The story I like to tell is that I was working on a play in Houston at Stages Repertory Theater. It was a production of Silence by Mauro Buffini. Great play. No one's heard of it, don't worry. And John Swayze, who then was, you all know John Swayze, right? Yeah. So John Swayze then was doing a lot of directing for ADV, and he came and saw the play because he had a good friend in it. Met me there, and pretty soon brought me in for dying soldier number 49AQ in shadow skill. I believe my first day in the studio, I was crushed by a planet. So I was hooked. So I like to say I fell into it, but I did not, my darlings. Oh, no. I had recently moved to Houston from the Midwest. I had grown up in Houston, but had left at age 14. Came back because at the time, I was doing the whole rock band thing in the Midwest, and I was getting real tired of that. So I was making a decision as to where to go next, and it was down between Chicago or Houston. Because Chicago I had lived in, I knew it was a great town, particularly for theater, which was my primary preoccupation at the time. But Houston had, a real theater scene had grown in Houston. So I was weighing the options. I still had family in Houston. And I was searching around on the internet. This was about 2003. And I found an article which was an interview with Chris Ayres, all about his anime work. And I can't remember where the article was. I found it online, so who knows? It could have been a magazine, or it could have been like the Houston paper or whatever. And I read that article and I learned that ADV was in town, and I learned what they were doing, and I was like, oh, decision made. So I moved back to Houston, got on the waiting list for ADV auditions as quickly as I could, got the audition, went in. I got paired up with a girl who had walked in clearly drunk and hadn't slept for 3 days. She tanked that audition.
I'm really tired. Sorry.
I wasn't gonna name names.
Sorry, I'm still here.
But yeah, so I got into this audition. I'd been like champing at the bit for this thing. I was so hot for it, and I got paired up with this train wreck. And of course, I did not get a call from that audition. But it was later that Swayze saw me in the play by happenstance and started using me. So it was a happy accident that I moved heaven and earth to make happen. Thank you.
And I've been an actor my whole life for the most part. I never really pursued it. It was always just something that I did. When my grandmother got a lot older, we started going back to church to kind of go to church with her. And during the summer, there was this playwright there who wrote her own original plays, and she would have the kids, we would act in the plays. And everybody seemed to like my performances. I mean, I was always kind of a ham anyway, and I liked playing dress up at home when I was a little kid and stuff, and had Batman costumes and all kinds of things. So I mean, I was always sort of theatrical, and my mom was really theatrical in high school too, so I kind of got that influence really young. But yeah, it was just kind of always something I did. Instead of working at McDonald's, I just sort of found acting jobs. So that was kind of my version of McDonald's, which is working for agencies around town, doing little jobs here and there. And my first professional gig was Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Because when I was younger, back in the day when the Scooby-Doo live-action film first came out, Verizon had acquired the rights to Scooby-Doo somehow. So they were hiring local actors to come to the mall and dress up like the characters to try to get kids into the store so they could sell cell phones to the parents. It's all very convoluted, right? But I was Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and I just go into the store and come on in, guys. So yeah, so I would just do that. And yeah, and just any random job I could get, and then I got an open call with AD Vision and started doing voice acting. So yeah, that was me.
So when I was a kid, the first anime I watched was Pokemon, and I read an interview with Veronica Taylor, who played Ash Ketchum, and when I was a kid, that blew my mind. I'm like, wait, this 10-year-old boy is voiced by a woman? That's so cool. And I remember telling my mom, I want to do this when I grow up. And she's like, oh honey, that's not going to get you money. Go be a nurse. I'm like, okay. I didn't want to be a nurse, so instead I'm like, oh, how about I study music instead? So I went to Berklee College of Music, stuck with all that music. But in my freshman year, we had a game jam at Berklee. A game jam is where we team up with engineering students from another college and we make a video game in 48 hours. They are the worst games you will ever see. They're so bad. But they were like, hey, you want to be a part of this? I said, I don't know anything about audio. What can I do? And they said, you could do voiceover for the games. So I gave it a shot. The first thing I ever voiced was being a male hillbilly in this game.
Do it!
Yeah.
Oh my god, wait, I'm trying to think.
Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit.
Yeah, but hey, it sounds okay now, but then we recorded on our Mac internal mic, put it into GarageBand and pitched it down. It sounded so bad, so awful. We placed third though. But, well yeah, but ever since then, the engineers got back to like all of my audio friends at Berkeley. They were talking about me to them, saying, hey, actually, she was really good. So all of my engineering friends started calling me in for their projects to voice for them. And so in the 3 years I was at Berkeley, I just voiced for all those projects, and that's how I got my practice. In my last year at Berkeley, I went to a con called HaberCon. It was a one-day convention for Todd Habercorn. It was just for him. That was weird. Yeah, it was like all held in like one room like this. And there was a voice acting contest. The winner would get an audition at Funimation. So I'm like, I'm gonna enter that. I lost. But hey, it's okay, because 6 months later, during graduation at Berkeley, I got contacted by the director of Fairy Tale, and he said, hey, I really liked you at HaberCon. You wanna come try out for us? I'm like, yeah, sure, and that's how I got to where I am now.
Questions? Alexander!
Hey David, you ever gonna bring back your rock and roll persona? You said you're a musician in the Midwest, are you gonna bring that back?
I'm just waiting for the right moment.
I think now is the right moment.
I feel a challenge. How do we bring that back? How do we bring him back?
Just abruptly.
Now I'm a blank.
He's
I
a
studied
great
jazz
singer,
in school,
though.
so it's all becoming jazz standards in my head. But rock and roll, let's see. Do you love me? Do you love me? Now that I can dance.
I'm glad you sang that because I never knew that he said dance. And this was like,
He actually didn't fully pronounce any of the words. But I took diction classes.
and then he goes, watch me now! And it makes sense now, he can dance. That's an awesome song. I'm into it.
I am so mortified that I just did that.
We are not mortified.
Someone else, please ask.
We have some other questions over here. Yeah, you first and then you with the really cool wig.
Okay, I have a question for Nathan.
Okay, next question.
Okay, so for your character Gajul, can you say your favorite line and explain as to why it's your favorite line?
Wait, which show is this?
Gotcha.
Yeah, Sarah the Gajul.
You know, to be fully honest, it's very difficult for us to remember specific lines because, for example, when I go to Funimation, I'm usually driving up to Dallas from Houston. So I'll go to Funimation, I'll spend 6 to 8 or more hours there, and I'll go from studio to studio to studio, and they'll, because they want to maximize my time. So I can't say honestly that it's my favorite line because I don't know. But I remember the reference they gave me every time I went in, which is just so that they could, so I could remember exactly where the voice was pitched, what he sounded like. And that reference was this: I told you never to bother me when I'm eating! Thank you. This is why I went to Juilliard. I passed by Juilliard.
I went to Starbucks. Where I worked.
There was another orange-haired question.
So from the time that you started in the industry to now, what are some of the most exciting changes that have happened in the industry and some of the more disappointing changes?
Very provocative. Did everybody hear that okay? Okay, good. Let's go down the line.
Yes.
Let's start with Jess, because she's experienced.
That's another way to say that I'm old. Thanks so much.
No.
I love you, pal. Do you love me? Yes, he does. So I started in 1995. Beat you up, Cane. bitches. Yeah, so I started in with 80 Vision, ADV Films, which is now, they're different companies, broke off, it's now Sentai, Seraphim, but ADV Films.
ADV is no more.
ADV is no more. So back in the day, we used something called paper. It's obsolete now, like my life. Yeah, so the scripts were on paper, and you would go in, and I worked at a number of different studios. So I did a lot of dubbing in New York, and then a lot of dubbing in New York, and then Houston back in the day. And so you would go to the studio. You had paper scripts. You looked at one monitor, and you hoped it was at least in color, because one of the studios I worked at had like this little tiny black and white TV, not a monitor, but a TV. So things were different back then. Also, my favorite part of it is that the director sometimes wanted you to study. They'd be like, well, we've got some VHS tapes for you to come and pick up, and only 2 episodes of anime would fit onto a VHS tape. So if you're an 8-episode series, you're picking up 4 tapes, and here are the scripts, and we also want you to, these are just the translations, they weren't adapted yet, so go ahead and fill in some lines. If you see any lines missing, just add some words or take some away if they run too long. It was crazy. And so we wrote, and I'd highlight my lines and write notes on them. It was actually kind of theatrical, think about it. It just worked, the process almost seemed a little more like it was a play. And now you go in, and there are 2 flat screen monitors. One has the animation, one has the script. The director scrolls for you. You just stand there and voice act as you should. I do art uses an iPad. And so when you go in, you've got your iPad, you've got the script here, and the animation's above you. It's just a little bit different. So there's been a lot of changes that I've seen over the years, and the convention industry has changed as well. I was talking about this earlier, but now they don't have as many Japanese guests, or any sometimes, at the convention, and now it's really more geared toward the English-speaking actors, which is fine. But it's just changed. Like back then, people would sometimes get angry at us. We just started dubbing. They're like, "You suck! You're awful." More so than now. Sometimes you get dub haters too. But even then, like there'd be literally nobody there'd be 2 people at a panel that I was in, and like a string of voice actors, because no one knew who we were. No one cared. And now look, we have more than 2 people. So, and you guys don't hate us at all, hopefully. But anyway, so yeah, there's lots of changes.
Yeah, I've been doing it 13, 14 years, something like that. And I mean, in summary, the things I find most exciting are that anime is kind of exploding. There's particularly, and it's been happening steadily, but particularly over this last year, or last couple of years, I guess more than a couple years now, but like The Matrix hit theaters and kind of showed people that there's this amazing source material for that kind of concept in a fantasy fiction. And movies like Pacific Rim, and they just did the Ghost in the Shell. Like I don't know if they're nailing any of these movies yet, but anime is becoming, Hollywood is starting to realize that anime is a source of incredible storytelling. That's not quite like what we bear here in the West. I think that's really exciting. I think the advent of these streaming sites, Funimation now, Crunchyroll's of course been around a while. That's all subbed, but Netflix is getting in the game. Amazon's getting in the game. Other major players are getting in the game. So anime's in a bit of it's burgeoning a bit right now. And I think that's really exciting. It's also really terrifying because you don't know where that change is going to go. You know what I mean? So I love it. I embrace it. I'm embracing the change. But anime's, I would call it a renaissance, except it's never been this popular. And it's only getting more so. And hopefully we're going to keep doing good work and doing it right and let the strain continue. So I find that very exciting.
You said strain like it's a virus.
Yes. Sort of is.
Kind of.
You gotta catch it. So speaking of music, the guy who sang, here's just a little trivia tidbit. The guy who sang the original Pokemon theme, gotta catch 'em all!
Yeah.
Was a former roommate of mine in New York named John.
What? You know that?
Yep. Yep. I lived with Paige for a while, and he's crazier than his voice even sounds. But yeah, you can find him. His name's Jason Page. He's out there on the interwebs.
Yeah, he's one of those singers that sounds like he's sweating while he's singing. It's that like 80s heat. That
I just saw him
brings
post. He just posted something he did with Queen. You gotta have some serious chops. You're gonna follow up Freddie Mercury. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A lot of singers have tried and died.
Did he get to do the Pokemon song with Queen?
I don't know.
That'd be awesome.
I did not know he was a really good, so cool.
Yeah.
I see a little silhouette of a Pikachu.
He's just too busy making music. Whatever.
Well, yes to everything they said, and plus. I really like the streaming stuff. That's been really interesting. I was an animator at Anime Network, and I used to do all of the bumpers for the television shows between the shows and the commercials. And it was great. It was an awesome job because they let me basically do whatever I wanted as long as I didn't do anything too lewd. But we created a series called The Miscellaneous Adventures of Pooh Boy. And they were little 2-minute animated shorts of this little Karopi baby that went on adventures, and it always ended with him pooing on something or somewhere. They were hilarious. Anyway, I started doing the voice for Pooh Boy, and then I started at Anime Network, and then I stared animating Pooh Boy as well, and it kind of became my little pet project. But I did seasonal stuff, but when that went away, we weren't sure what was gonna happen. When Anime Network stopped being an on-demand station, I don't know if any of you guys are old enough to remember all the on-demand stuff where it's tell Comcast you want anime 24/7, and it was some guy in your face about anime 24/7, and you're I don't know what on-demand is, this controller is confusing. Which is part of the reason why it never really landed. On-demand was really kind of hard to sell, and people didn't, at Comcast and AT&T and Cox and all these places, they didn't really understand what anime was and why anyone would want a whole station of Japanese animation. So it was a really weird thing to see it go from that to these streaming services now where it's basically given all the power back to the studios. So they can control when they put stuff out, and now we can do simul dubs and all this crazy stuff where we can actually stream things at the same time. It's it's such a neat change. It's really cool to see. So yeah, that's the main thing I've seen that I'm really impressed by.
You guys pretty much said everything that I thought about it. I haven't been doing it that long. I've been voicing for anime for 3 years, and when I first started, I would go to Funimation maybe once a month to record for Fairy Tail because we were still just, doing DVD and Blu-ray, and then simul dubs came out, and so instead of being there once a month, I'm more there maybe once or twice a week to record for all these shows, and we can talk about them sooner, which is really exciting for us because, man, it sucks when you record for something and you're oh, I really want to talk about this, and you can't talk about it for 2 months.
Or longer.
But yeah, when I was a kid, there were shows that I wanted to see. I really wanted to see Yu-Gi-Oh! In the Japanese dub just because I was curious how it differed in terms of censorship. And you couldn't find it online back then. You had to buy DVDs, which I bought DVDs, and I later found out I think I bought bootlegs. I should have figured that out when they changed Kaiba's name to Seahorse. And they also called the Millennium Rod the Millennium Stick. But hey, I was just maybe that's just the translation. But yeah, I would have to buy those DVDs on eBay. But now, streaming, all these legal streaming options make it so much easier to watch anime now, and I love it. So yeah, I do like how it's changed.
Do you guys like how it's changed?
Yeah.
Yeah?
The TV loves it! There was one you go in that was a little mixed up. It was the flame colors.
The what?
The color of flame they edited in Yu-Gi-Oh! Animation. blue flame was more dangerous than orange flame. They made a little mix-up on that, I found out.
On which show? Which show?
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh?
On the flame monsters. They altered the flame color to blue flame, but blue flame's more dangerous than orange flames.
Is that blue eyes white dragon?
No, fire monsters. It's a color of flames.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't think people looked at that, the last Airbender because of Azula using blue fire, which is more dangerous. Yeah, that was, yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah, I checked it when I looked at the archetypes of the monsters. That's how.
Anybody else? Anything you want to know about the world of anime?
Hello, yes.
You know, in concern for
Sorry, having a little trouble hearing you.
for David, is concerning when in your role as Gajil Red Fox. I was wondering though, how does it feel whenever you get, you say when you get into it with the let's just in the show where you play as play arguments with Todd, the voice actor of Natsu. How does that feel when you get to be a character as a rival to him?
I love it. I love it. I love, conflict and contention in fiction.
In real life too, you're a real troublemaker.
Oh, I'm all kinds of trouble. Yeah, no, I love dynamic like that. It's another thing I really love about anime, and it happens so often in anime how, the victory at the end for the good guys isn't when they kill the bad guys, it's when they make the bad guys into a good guy. And I love it. That's one of my favorite elements of those types of shows from out of Japan. And I just think, the alternative is watching Arnold Schwarzenegger kill 187 people. You know what I mean? I was there in the 80s. I loved Commando. But I was really happy eventually to see these lines of fictional storytelling where the victory was in curing the bad guy, not killing the bad guy. And I love that sort of redemption arc for Gajil, when he becomes part of the guild. And let's say it was Phantom Guild, right? Phantom Guild? Phantom Lord. Thank you. And yes, and then he joins Fairy Tail. I just think the redemption story is fantastic. But he also doesn't lose his teeth. You know what I mean? He's still exactly the same Gajil. So I love that sort of conflict and contention. I think it leads to a lot of humor, and I love it. And Todd's fantastic. It's kind of a dream to have Todd Havercorn in your headphones. You know what I mean? So and because Natsu is such a big deal in that show, often Todd is recorded before the rest of us, depending on schedules. So I get to get in there and I hear Todd's voice and it just makes me go crazy!
I met him already though. Why already met him already?
What's that?
I already met Todd though. I already met Todd, got an autograph from him actually.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah, it was a picture of a Fairy Tail Great Master crossover I showed him.
Yeah. Todd's good people.
Yeah,
There's a lot of great artwork. Wall scrolls and stuff.
Yeah. There was another question. Yes, sir.
What is your opinion on Funimation being acquired by Sony?
Oh.
I'm excited about it because, and this is just my opinion. I haven't been in on the secret meetings with everybody, but from what I've heard from the whispers is that really I think Sony, and this is just my opinion, I think Sony sees all of the success Netflix is having, and they just really want a piece. They're not really looking to come in and change anything from what my understanding is. I think they just they know there's something to this streaming thing, and they know there's something to anime, and I think that they really just want to provide some more funding for this genre, for this art form. They want to be able to see if they can maybe help Funimation take it to the next level, and the whole I think Crunchyroll's deal probably made them more interested because that kind of has that streaming aspect to it. I think there's just a big buzz in the entire entertainment genre right now for good streaming platforms that already have built-in followings. So I think that's really what you're seeing with Sony. I don't think it's going to be anything where it's going to you're going to start seeing Andrew Garfield in any of the animes or anything. I really think it's more about the buzz that's been created by Netflix that's fueling a lot of this interest.
And truly, I mean, to be 100% honest, the four of us at this table are like the last ones on the information list, right? Like, whatever's going on with the Sony Funimation deal, we may never know. You know what I mean? But so far, my experience of it at least is there's been no fundamental change to the operation at Funimation. And I think really, what the Sony deal does is it just gives us a whole lot more resources, which is pretty great, you know?
More anime?
Yes.
Something bad happens and we're looking.
We'll see, you know, we're gonna see how it plays out.
One slip and it's a disaster can happen.
Yeah, we don't
Hey,
know.
we can handle disaster. We've had a
I am a disaster. Jesus.
We thrive in disaster.
Yeah.
Right. Questions? Oh, God.
And thank you very much for that.
Hi. Monarch TV. Do you have a question?
The TV has a question!
Oh, what to say?
Give him a text message.
How do you feel about the voice acting for RWBY?
Ruby. Was that Ruby? Yeah.
Ruby.
Well, we have a voice actress from
Hi! What's up? Don't look at my character. It's a spoiler. A lot of my characters are spoilers.
How do we feel about it? What does that mean?
How do I feel about the voice acting for Ruby? I love how it's improved. Like, cause I've been watching it since volume 1, and you can just hear how much they've improved. Because when they first started out, like a lot of people, I've even talked to Lindsay Jones about this. She's like, oh, I didn't like my acting in volume 1, and I'm like, girl, I thought you were great. And she's like, no. But I think that goes for a lot of us when we hear our acting from years ago. We're like, no, ignore that. That's not there. But if you guys just straight up marathon volume 1 to volume 5 now, they have improved so much, and I love it. So yes, short and sweet. I love how much they've improved.
The TV approved.
TV, are you a Ruby fan? You can shake your head, yes. Cool. Yay, yeah. Questions?
Who else got one? Oh, it's flying now.
You, yes.
I guess going back to the Ruby thing, so I freaking love Ruby. Did you notice any change in the script after Montino? Or was it just, do you think it's the same script that he wrote out all the way up to volume whatever?
I think it is. I think that they tried to keep it as faithful to him as possible. But again, I only know what they give me, just because I recorded Ruby at Soundcaden Studios in Dallas, whereas Ruby is recorded in Austin. So again, I'm the last person to know what all goes behind the scenes there. But from what I can tell, they're trying to keep it as faithful to his memory as possible. The creator of Ruby passed away, I believe last year. And which again, when I got cast as, okay, hopefully this isn't a spoiler. I play Anren. I play Lai Ren's mother. Lai Ren was originally played by Monty, and for me, that was like a huge honor. Like, I remember when I got cast in Ruby, I got the email at a mall, and I just dropped to my knees. I'm like, I get to be in this as Monty's character's mom, and I thought I have to honor him in the best way possible. I have to make this the best performance I can make it. Even though, again, if you haven't seen it, whatever, spoiler, but even though it was like a short performance, I felt like it was the best that I could give.
You got another one? Yes, actually 2 questions, one from Dawn and Blake. How did you feel about your role as Roach?
Rose is my child.
Roach was the first anime character I ever played, and when I tried out for Fairy Tail, I hadn't tried out for Frosh. The side that they gave me was Lecter. But I tried out for Lecter using the Frosh voice. So I think Tyler was like, no, here. But yeah, same thing. That I was so happy. I didn't even know I was going to play Frosh. When I went in for the session, it was just for Walla. And for those of you who don't know, Walla means with all actors. It's basically crowd noises. And even then, like, that was my first call for my very first Funimation session, and I called my grandma. I was like, Grandma, I get to have my first session at Funimation. And she's like, oh, Don, I prayed for you. I was so happy for you. And I'm like, Grandma, don't cry.
Is she like, when, are you going to be a doctor soon? I'm so happy for you, but when are you going to be a doctor?
Oh, they tell me that all the time because my grandma's type 2 diabetic, so I check her every day. And so she's like, oh, Dawn, you're so good at checking me. You could be a nurse. I'm like, no, I'm not going to. But anyway, how do I feel about that? Again, Frosh is very special to me because Frosh was my first anime character.
You had what relate?
I played your role as Akito and Akira. I was wondering, how did you feel about your role as Akito?
Oh my gosh, I wish they would have made a second season of the Air Gear. That would have been so awesome. But he was one of my favorites, and he's actually near and dear to my heart because I really love Mark Hamill's Joker in Batman the Animated Series. And when I first saw this character, I was like, man, this is like, you know, me as, I guess I was in my early 20s, I was like, this is my Joker. This is my chance to do my maniacal, crazy, wild, unbridled, evil monster. And so that I just kind of like threw myself into that, and it was a lot of fun. But it was definitely a hard lesson because, you know, for all of you guys out there that are like, I can do voices, I'm a voice actor, I kind of went into that role with that sort of ego, and then I realized I had to do that crazy, weird, maniacal voice with like paragraphs and monologues and lines and feeling. It was like, oh no, what have I done? So I had to really practice that voice, and I had to try a bunch of different stuff with it in order to try to get the performance where it needed to be. Because at first I thought he was just gonna like go crazy and kill stuff, and then he'd turn into the other character and no big deal. But yeah, it was a really, really good learning experience for me. So I really liked it.
Questions?
I have one for both David and Dawn. In the Garo animation, were there any monsters in any of the episodes that scared you?
Scared us? Episodes of Garo that scared us?
Yeah, certain monsters in the episodes that scared you.
Was it a horror anime? I don't know anything about it.
It was about horrors. But,
horrors. For me, I was not frightened by anything in Garo because I was usually naked, and the character, and her mom never met a single challenge he couldn't completely take care of. So like, I knew the script was going to get me through whatever was going on in the show.
Not really terrified, but more like angered because of Mendoza. I hope this isn't a spoiler. It's been out for a bit.
Just watch it.
I get exiled by Mendoza, and I don't know. I was
Mendoza,
just
by the way, just to break into it, is a rather unusual performance by this dude named Vic Mignogna. Has anybody heard of this? Some obscure anime actor. I don't know. Like he's done a thing or two.
He's anyone else's voice actor, Broly's voice actor as well. I recognize him, and I met him as well.
Yeah, but Vic, I mean, everyone knows Vic from like Full Metal Alchemist and all that stuff. But Vic plays the villain in this show, and it's an atypical performance of Vic's, and it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah,
because he's pretty fantastic as Mendoza.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I was really happy to be able to play off him in that moment, like this evil Vic Mignogna character, and I get to like face off against him, and spoiler, he wins. I was mad.
Always win.
I was mad. I'm like, I want to be the one to take him down, but no. But yes, anger, not really terror though.
Anyone else?
Questions?
We are at 4:53, so we have time for a few more. Hi.
Yeah, this is for anyone on the panel. Are there any characters that you've done that you wish you could go back and like redo or approach in a different way?
No, and not because I thought that I was great. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't watch my work. The only time that I've ever actually watched it is if I'm trying to pull a scene out for some other purpose. And I did watch Attack on Titan just because we live tweeted, so I did happen to watch that. But I can't go back because I'm always cringing. But I'm always cringing at what I'm doing now. I'm cringing right now. But I mean, I can't listen to myself. And I suppose, sure, if I go back and listen to something I did in 1996, I might go, wow. But at the same time, my performance in 1996 was super organic. I was new, you know, was it really bad? No, it wasn't bad. And everyone else kind of, you know, we were all new. The dubbing industry was new. And so I think I grew along with everyone else. But I don't know that I'm better now than I was then, but I just think I always cringe. So I'm not really answering your question. Thank you.
For me, you know, I don't. It would be disingenuous for me to say, similarly to Jessica, it would be disingenuous for me to say that I would want to go back and redo anything. You know, you're always going to run into. I mean, you know, in many ways, in anime, decisions are made by committee. You know, you've got a director in the room, you've got a writer usually not in the room, you've got the Japanese influence, you know, in the script. So there are a lot of things I might have liked to do differently than the creative brains, you know, than the decisions at which they arrived. But I wouldn't necessarily go back and change anything, only because, as far as acting is concerned, anything I've written, oh, I got a million changes, yeah. But as far as acting, just like Jessica said, I you know, a performance, and again, I cut my teeth in the theater, right? So I'm a member of a tradition that, or I come from a tradition that relies on the new, on the spontaneous, on what's happening in that moment. And to be successful on stage, not like to make money and have a Maserati, but like to successfully execute a performance on stage, you've got to be in that moment at that time. And for me, a performance from an older anime is much the same. It's a capsule of that day, that moment, that thought process, with the mood I brought with me to the studio, or the mood I had to transcend to get out of the studio. You know what I mean? So like, those are all snapshots. And I would no more change one of those than I would go back and like change Christmas photos of myself at 6 years old, you know? Like, I don't look so good in that photo, but I didn't look so good.
Expounding on what David said, yeah, I mean, I'm a super hypercritical person when it comes to myself. I'm very critical of everything that I do, and I'm always like meticulously analyzing everything and all the time. So like, would I want to change it? Yes. Would I change it? Probably not, because for pretty much everything he just said, I mean, it's all part of the journey and the process. And if I gave myself the power to go back and redo things I've already done that in the moment I was happy with, then I'm taking energy away from other things I could be doing that could be new and different, and you know, something past what I've already done. It's done. It's been done.
So we got time for one more. Anyone else? Yeah. We got time for one more response.
Okay. Yeah. There is one thing I'd love to revisit, just because the director I've talked to about it would love it too. It was the first game I ever worked on that wasn't the Game Jam Hillbilly thing, was Freedom Planet, if anyone ever played that. That was on the Wii U, PS4, thank you. And we've talked about it because I worked on that before I got into funny, and I tell him all the time now, I'm like, man, you know, I wish I would have had the acting chops then that I have now. And he says the same thing, because we've both grown. Like, he's grown as a game developer, I've grown as a voice actor. So I'd love to go back to that. But other than that, nothing else. What did you do?
The mic died.
I was just seeing what
Wait, you were just talking on it.
I know, but it died.
Are you sure it died or just because you freaking took it apart? Maybe you killed it and you're like, oh, it died.
Oh, it's working now.
Oh, geez, yeah, this is what I'm saying. Next, are we, what do we have? Let's do like a really quick, let's do one more quick, and like speed run down the road.
Lightning round.
Yeah, who has not asked a question and would like to ask one? Yes, milady.
Sure. What's the most challenging role you've ever played?
Excel and Excel Saga.
Oh, shoot.
Kondo Akuoki.
I can't talk about it yet. See, it's dying!
So her name is.
I can't talk about it yet, but it's super hard.
Skip me.
Who were you in Skip Me?
No, I said skip me.
Oh, snap. I'm like, oh, Skip Me, I know that one.
Dawn doesn't think anything's hard.
That's fun. Let's do another. Who hasn't asked a question yet? We have like a minute. Who hasn't asked a question? Who has not? All right. Who has and then wants to ask another one? Speak. Oh, come on.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah.
No. Okay. If you could work with any voice actor, dead or alive, who would it be?
Work with?
If you, yeah.
Well,
You could
we don't
work
get to work. You mean just be in the same show with?
Yes. Dead or alive?
Mel Blanc.
Okay.
Ditto.
God.
Mel Blanc.
Oh, you know who I love? Any fans from Mrs. Frisbee? The Rats of Them? Secret of Them? The Mrs. Frisbee, which is Frisbee in the book, Frisbee in the movie. God, she was so wonderful. I would love to be in a show with her. I don't know if she's still alive. Not my point. She's magical.
Yeah, Mel Blanc, Frank Welker. Frank Welker's done like a gajillion voices. Frank Welker. Now I feel like I'm not saying his name.
I met him. He's Megatron's voice actor, the original.
Yeah. He does like everything in the Transformers. The man is chameleonic. Pretty impressive. And Mark Hamill. I mean, come on. All right, so this ends the Q&A. We'll be up here for another hour signing things you bring us or purchase.
Yes,
Yeah.
the autographs will be here. So guys, I'm gonna need you to clear out the room and form a line outside the door.